Hi there. One of the questions we're most often asked by newcomers to straight razor shaving is, what are all these measurements of a razor? What does 5/8 mean? What does 6/8 mean? You know, what do you mean when you say the jimps? What do you mean by when you say the tang? So this short video is just for those people who are not familiar with the terms, just to sort of demystify the process. This is a Dovo 6/8 round point razor. Now the thing is that it's quite a basic type of razor, and it's one that you would buy for as a first razor, or indeed for an everyday razor. Now, as to the anatomy of the razor, it's quite simple. This you can see here is the spine. This is the nose or point, and this is called a round point because it's round. You know, other points are square point, hook nose, Spanish point. There's all sorts of different points, but this is one of the most common and most favoured by newcomers. This, of course, is the edge, the all important edge, and edges are normally about 2 3/4 inches long. Now, what do we mean when we say this is a 6/8 razor? Well, basically, the distance between here, which is the spine, I suppose more correctly spine shoulder, and the edge is 6/8 of an inch. Even in this metric world, razors are still measured this way. Now the thing as well is that razors vary from 2/8, which is very narrow indeed, to 8/8, and even beyond that. 8/8 is a full inch from here to the edge. Now the thing that they don't do is that the blade does not expand or indeed shrink, you know, so to maintain what was called the ratio. So a 2/8 blade is every bit as long as this one, as indeed an 8/8. It just looks a lot deeper. It's just the way razors are made, simply because the human face is roughly the same size no matter which one you use. Now, this part here is called the tang, and you'll notice that if I just close it up a little bit, here you can see what's called jimping. Not all razors have this, and it's just an aid to grip. And there's the top jimps, and underneath you'll see the bottom jimps. Okay? The bit on the end is the trigger, otherwise known sometimes as the monkey tail, but more often the trigger. And when the razor is open and in use, in that position, your ring finger goes here, 2 fingers there and thumb underneath to give you that grip. Now, when you've got that grip, the razor is manoeuvrable, and yet it's quite safely held. Okay. The handles, more properly called scales, on this razor are simple black plastic because it's inexpensive. This is the wedge end, and normally there will be a wedge spacer in here. In these scales it's integral. This is the pivot, and you can see the pin that goes right through here. Okay? It's always a good idea to keep this just with a drop of oil on, because the one place the razor will rust if it gets chance is down here, because it's not easy to dry. So how about full grind and half grind and hollow grind and all this and the rest of it? Basically all that is the way that the blade is ground to shape. Now you see on this razor that there are 2 shoulders, one there and one there, indicating that this is a fully hollow ground razor. The first shoulder is formed when the first hollow grind is done, and the second is formed when the secondary grind is done, which is here. Now you can possibly just see that there is, from the shadowing, that there, just here, is where the secondary grind starts. This is called the saddle of the razor, and the razor actually comes back out again. You can feel this if you stroke down the razor. Be careful when you do this though, you don't want to cut your fingers. Opinions vary as to whether full grind or half grind is better. In a half grind razor, normally this secondary shoulder is absent and it's ground straight down. You also get quarter grind, which are a much heavier blade as well, often mistakenly called wedge blades. For a beginner, this is ideal. It provides, you know, a good light blade coupled with a good edge that all razors have, and it's the most common grind in modern razors. The one difference is with razors in another grind is what's called the shoulderless grind. Now this is what's called a Dovo Carré razor. It's a bit more upmarket than the last one we saw, but basically it's still a 6/8 razor, and you know, the anatomy of it is much the same, although it has a bit more of a thumb notch here. But the important bit is just there. Now you can see that there's no shoulders here, because this is ground differently. This is ground to this point here, and it's called a shoulderless grind. Is it better than the other type? Opinions vary again. Some people like it just because of its looks. Others, you know, absolutely swear that it's better than a normal hollow grind. But the thing at the end of the day is it does the same job, as do all razors. So really, the choice is, when it comes to buying your first razor, is how deep is your pocket, how much do you want to spend, and also really you should be looking at spending above £60. Below that, it's a struggle for any manufacturer to provide a good quality blade. These blades are high carbon Swedish steel, carefully looked after. Either one of these will last you virtually a lifetime. Poorly looked after, they won't last very long at all. The difference being that with a cheap razor, with a cheap blade, and when I say cheap, what we mean is a blade that is probably made from inferior grade steel and it has had poor heat treatments or poor grinding, is that they will not last, and also they will not take an edge. And I would advise you to spend a little bit more and get one of, you know, one above 60 odd pounds. The sky's the limit. You can spend £300 on a razor, you can spend 500, 600, 700, but really basically, if you want a razor for everyday use and you don't want to spend too much money, one of these is ideal. Either a 6/8 or a 5/8. Now 2/8 razors, 3/8 razors exist, as do obviously 7/8, 8/8. I'd steer away from those as a first razor because they're just that little bit more hard to handle. I've never seen a 1/8 razor. I think it will be very, very thin indeed, and razors above 8/8 tend to be unwieldy and are more showpieces than usable razors. The two sizes to go for are either 5/8 or 6/8. If you do that, keep to those sizes, you won't go far wrong. Also, buy from a reputable manufacturer, and above all, buy from a reputable dealer. If in doubt, give us a shout. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you now. Bye.